The billionaire sat at the quiet outdoor cafe, staring at his untouched plate, while the world moved around him like he didn't exist anymore. Across from him stood a tired old man, clothes worn, hands shaking slightly, eyes filled with something deeper than hunger or need. "Sir, if you feed me, I'll tell you a secret," the man said softly, his voice carrying years of pain and patience together. "Before we dive in, let us know in the comments what time is it and where are you watching from. Let's start." The billionaire frowned, not because of the request, but because something in the man's voice felt strangely familiar and unsettling. He had heard many people beg before, but this didn't feel like begging. It felt like an offer, like a deal with hidden weight. The billionaire adjusted his suit, his sharp eyes studying the man, trying to understand what kind of secret could come from such a broken life. People around them glanced briefly, then looked away, as if this moment didn't matter, as if the old man was invisible to everyone else. But the billionaire couldn't look away. Something inside him refused to ignore the man standing right in front of him. "Sit," he finally said, his voice calm but firm, surprising even himself as he gestured toward the empty chair. The old man hesitated for a moment, as if unsure whether this kindness was real or just another passing illusion of hope. Then, slowly, carefully, he sat down, his eyes lowering, but his presence already beginning to change something inside the billionaire. The waiter arrived quietly, placing a fresh plate of warm food in front of the old man, the aroma rising gently between them. The old man stared at the meal, not touching it yet, as if he had forgotten what it felt like to be offered dignity without condition. The billionaire watched closely, his expression serious, but inside something unfamiliar was slowly beginning to move and soften. "Eat," he said, his tone less sharp now, almost human, almost like he was speaking to someone he didn't want to lose. The old man nodded slightly, then picked up the fork with trembling hands, each movement slow, careful, almost respectful. He didn't rush, didn't grab, didn't behave like someone starving. Instead, he ate with quiet patience, like this moment mattered deeply. The billionaire noticed everything, the way he paused between bites, the way his eyes sometimes closed, as if remembering something long gone. It wasn't just hunger, it was memory, it was pain, it was something far heavier than an empty stomach. "Now, your secret," the billionaire said after a moment, his voice steady, but his curiosity growing stronger than before. The old man stopped eating, his hands resting on the table, his eyes slowly lifting to meet the billionaire's gaze. For a brief second, silence filled the space between them, thick, heavy, almost uncomfortable, like something important was about to break through. Then the old man spoke, his voice low and calm. "The secret is not about me. It's about you." The billionaire's eyes narrowed slightly as he leaned back in his chair, his expression turning serious, because no one had ever spoken to him like this before. A strange tension filled the air between them as the sounds of the cafe faded into the background, leaving only silence and the weight of those unexpected words. "You don't know me," the billionaire replied calmly, but inside a flicker of discomfort rose, as if the old man had touched something buried deep. The old man gently placed his fork down, wiping his hands slowly, his movements calm, controlled, and filled with a quiet confidence that felt out of place. I know enough, the old man said softly, his eyes steady and unwavering, as if he had been waiting for this exact moment for many years. The billionaire's jaw tightened slightly, his fingers tapping the table unconsciously, a habit he had whenever something disturbed his perfect control. Then say it clearly, he responded, his tone firm but not angry, because curiosity had already started to overpower his usual cold distance. The old man leaned forward just a little, his tired face catching the soft light, revealing lines of hardship, but also something deeper, something knowing. You built everything, the old man began slowly. Wealth, power, respect, but you lost something far more valuable along the way. For a moment, the billionaire's breathing shifted, almost unnoticeable, but enough to reveal that those words had reached a place he never allowed anyone to see. Around them, people continued their lives, laughing, talking, unaware that at this small table a truth was quietly unfolding, piece by piece. The old man's voice softened even more as he finished. And the secret you're chasing is something you once had, but chose to leave behind. The billionaire froze for a brief moment, his composed face holding steady, but inside, those words echoed louder than anything he had heard in years. His eyes drifted away from the old man, scanning the cafe absent-mindedly, yet seeing nothing, because his mind had already traveled somewhere far in the past. Be careful what you say, he replied slowly, his tone controlled, but the slight heaviness in his voice revealed a crack in his usual confidence. The old man didn't react to the warning. Instead, he sat quietly, his calm presence almost unsettling, as if he had nothing to fear anymore. I am being careful, the old man answered gently, his eyes soft but firm, carrying the weight of truth that didn't need to shout to be heard. A long silence followed, stretching between them, filled with unspoken memories and questions that neither of them had fully faced until now. The billionaire clenched his hand lightly on the table, remembering moments he had buried under years of success, decisions he never allowed himself to regret. You had someone, the old man continued slowly, choosing each word with care, someone who didn't care about your money or your name. The billionaire's breathing grew slightly uneven, his gaze dropping to the table, as if those words were pulling him deeper into something he avoided. That person waited, the old man added quietly, not for your wealth, but for your time, your presence, something only you could give. The billionaire's fingers tightened subtly, his mind flashing with memories he had locked away, moments he convinced himself were necessary sacrifices. And one day, the old man finished, his voice almost a whisper, you chose everything else and walked away from the only thing that mattered. The billionaire's hand slowly loosened on the table, but the tension in his chest only grew heavier, as if something long buried was rising to the surface again. His eyes remained fixed on the plate in front of him, yet he wasn't seeing food anymore. He was seeing fragments of a past he had tried to forget. You speak like you were there, he said quietly, his voice no longer sharp, but filled with a strange mix of doubt and unease. The old man took a slow breath, his tired face softening, not with pity, but with understanding that only comes from lived pain and truth. I didn't need to be there, the old man replied gently. Some stories leave marks so deep They can be seen even after years pass. The billionaire swallowed hard, his throat tightening slightly, because deep down he knew the old man wasn't guessing. He was remembering something real. "There was a time," the old man continued, his voice steady, "when you were not this distant, not this cold, not this man sitting in front of me today." The billionaire's jaw shifted, his control slipping just a little as the image of who he used to be began to clash with who he had become. "You used to care," the old man added, his eyes holding a quiet sadness. "Not about power, but about people, about moments that actually meant something." A faint breath escaped the billionaire, almost like a sigh he didn't intend to release, as if those words were unlocking something fragile inside him. "And that person you left behind," the old man said softly, leaning slightly closer, "never stopped waiting, even when you stopped looking back." The billionaire finally looked up, his eyes no longer distant, but searching, shaken, as one question formed silently in his mind. How does this man know all this? The billionaire leaned forward slightly, his composed posture beginning to break, as his eyes locked onto the old man with a mix of urgency and disbelief. "Who are you?" he asked quietly, but the weight behind his words was heavy, as if the answer could change everything he believed about his past. The old man didn't respond immediately. Instead, he looked down at his empty plate, his fingers resting still as if gathering strength for what came next. A soft breeze passed through the cafe, carrying a strange stillness, as though even time had slowed to listen to what was about to be revealed. "You really don't recognize me?" the old man finally said, his voice calm, but carrying a deep emotional layer that couldn't be ignored anymore. The billionaire's heartbeat rose, his mind racing through memories, faces, voices, trying to connect the pieces that refused to come together clearly. "I've seen many people," he replied, his tone quieter now, less certain. "But I don't forget someone who speaks like this, someone who knows me." The old man gave a faint, almost painful smile, one that held years of silence, distance, and something that looked very close to disappointment. "You didn't forget," the old man said softly, lifting his eyes again. "You just chose not to remember, because remembering would have hurt too much." The billionaire's expression shifted, a crack forming in his control as those words struck deeper than anything else said before in this strange encounter. "I was there when you made that choice," the old man continued, his voice trembling slightly now, no longer completely steady like before. "And I was the one you left behind, the one who kept waiting, long after you stopped turning back." The billionaire's face went completely still, as if time had frozen around him, while those final words echoed again and again inside his mind. His eyes searched the old man's face more intensely now, tracing every line, every wrinkle, trying to uncover the identity hidden behind years of pain. A sudden realization began to form, slow but powerful, like a memory pushing through walls he had built to protect himself from regret. "No, it can't be," he whispered under his breath, his voice shaking slightly for the first time as disbelief and truth collided within him. The old man didn't interrupt, didn't rush. He simply waited, his calm silence allowing the truth to fully reveal itself without force or pressure. "You were there that day," the billionaire continued slowly, his breathing uneven now, as fragments of a forgotten goodbye returned clearly. The cafe around them seemed to disappear, replaced by a distant memory of a door, a choice, and someone standing behind him, waiting to be chosen. "I told myself it was necessary," the billionaire said, his voice heavier now, filled with regret he had never allowed himself to feel before. The old man nodded gently, not accusing, not angry, but carrying a quiet sadness that spoke louder than any blame ever could. "You didn't just leave a place," the old man said softly. "You left a person who believed in you when you had nothing at all." The billionaire's eyes dropped, unable to hold the weight of that truth any longer, as guilt slowly replaced the pride he once carried so easily. "And I waited," the old man finished, his voice breaking just slightly now, "not for your success, but for you to remember me." The billionaire sat completely still, his eyes filled with a truth he had avoided for years, now finally standing in front of him, impossible to ignore. His lips parted slightly, but no words came out at first, because regret has a way of silencing even the strongest voices in the room. "I thought I had time," he said quietly, his voice breaking under the weight of realization as his carefully built world began to feel empty. The old man watched him with calm eyes, not angry, not bitter, just carrying the quiet pain of someone who had already accepted the past. "Time doesn't wait," the old man replied gently, his voice soft but powerful. "It only moves forward, whether we are ready or not." The billionaire lowered his head, his shoulders no longer carrying pride, but the heavy burden of a choice that could never be undone again. "I lost everything that mattered," he whispered, not to the old man, but to himself, as the truth finally settled deep within his heart. The old man slowly stood up from the chair, his movements careful, as if this moment had already reached its natural and final end. For a brief second, their eyes met again, no longer strangers, but two lives connected by a past that could never be rewritten. The old man gave a faint nod, a silent goodbye, not asking for anything, not expecting anything, because some waits end without closure. The billionaire remained seated, watching him walk away, realizing too late that success had cost him the only relationship that ever mattered. This moment may end, but its message continues like the video. Subscribe and come back for the next inspiring journey.